Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
You seated? I want you to remember that no bastard ever won a war by dying for his country. He won it by making the other poor dumb bastard die for his country. Men, all this stuff you've heard about America not wanting to fight, wanting to stay out of the war, is a lot of horse dung. Americans traditionally love to fight. All real Americans love the sting of battle. When you were kids, you all admired the champion marble shooter, the fastest runner, big league ball players, the toughest boxers. Americans love a winner and will not tolerate a loser. Americans play to win all the time. I wouldn't give a hoot in hell for a man who lost and laughed. That's why Americans have never lost and will never lose a war, because the very thought of losing is hateful to Americans. Now, an army is a team. It lives, eats, sleeps, fights as a team. This individuality stuff is a bunch of crap. The bilious bastards who wrote that stuff about individuality for the Saturday Evening Post don't know anything more about real battle than they do about fornicating. Now, we have the finest food and equipment, the best spirit, and the best men in the world. You know, by God, I actually pity those poor bastards we're going up against. By God, I do. We're not just going to shoot the bastards. We're going to cut out their living guts and use them to grease the treads of our tanks. We're going to murder those lousy Hun bastards by the bushel. Now, some of you boys, I know, are wondering whether or not you'll chicken out under fire. Don't worry about it. I can assure you that you will all do your duty. The Nazis are the enemy. Wade into them. Spill their blood. Shoot them in the belly. When you put your hand into a bunch of goo that a moment before was your best friend's face, you'll know what to do. Now, there's another thing I want you to remember. I don't want to get any messages saying that we are holding our position. We're not holding anything. Let the Hun do that. We are advancing constantly, and we're not interested in holding on to anything except the enemy. We're going to hold on to him by the nose, and we're going to kick him in the ass. We're going to kick the hell out of him all the time, and we're going to go through him like crap through a goose. Now, there's one thing that you men will be able to say when you get back home, and you may thank God for it. 30 years from now, when you're sitting around your fireside with your grandson on your knee, and he asks you, what did you do in the great World War II? You won't have to say, well, I shoveled shit in Louisiana. All right, now you sons of bitches, you know how I feel. Oh. I will be proud to lead you wonderful guys into battle anytime, anywhere. That's all.
Guys, I'm really sorry. There's been welcome to the Department of War. I'm having to deal with a lot of stuff this morning. Rumble is not working on the main CDM channel. At least I'm told it's not transmitting. We had to go to alternate equipment. We've had DDoS attacks all night long, sites up and down. We're playing whack-a-mole against nefarious IPs. Apologize for that, but you know what? We're on the front lines. Welcome to the conflict. Welcome to the war. Welcome to the jungle. Secretary Hegseth gave a hell of a speech just now, and that's why I played the Patton speech, because we, as he said, there's no more woke department. Welcome to the Department of War. We're going to get it right to it today with Darin Gaub. I'm going to bring him in because we've got a lot to talk about. Darin, how are you, my friend?
Doing well, Todd. Good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning. Welcome to the trenches, man. We're out in the field, dude. Taking fire. Danger close. Fire mission.
You have to be, otherwise we're not doing it right.
Oh my! I'm having flashbacks to like training, pulling ST6 out of an LZ or something. So, what did you think of Hegseth's speech, my friend?
Well, hey, I guess that's a good opening.
Yeah.
The speech is a good opening, and I think it laid out some priorities and some policy type work that he's been focused on for a while now, for 8 months being a while.
Yeah.
We got a ways to go. I don't think that's why. I would hope that's not why we made everybody bring everybody into Quantico. That can't be the it, and maybe we won't see that.
Yeah.
But at least that's a good start. I know Trump's speaking right now. I love what he said about, if I don't like somebody, I'm going to fire him on the spot. Well, I'm sure with the collective mind of many of the veterans and others around the nation, they could go through that room and be like, well, here's somebody.
Yeah.
I got somebody I know I could have
Yeah.
removed. I'm waiting on the it, but for now, we got a good start.
Well, one thing he told me that I really picked, or what he said that I really picked up on, was it's time for O3s and E6s. Let's raise some of those guys up, and for our audience, that's captains and sergeants. Give them more. He says he's giving them more responsibility, but do you think that will actually happen? I mean, that was the beauty of the U.S. American Armed Force, was the NCO and the junior officers, right?
Yeah. And, the non-commissioned officers are the bread and butter of Americans military, and that's the ones who make things happen. And that's the proof is in the fact that most other nations don't really have that, especially when you start talking Eastern Europe, Russia, and Middle East, things like that. The non-commissioned officer corps pretty much doesn't exist or is not empowered. They're basically higher ranking privates. So that's unique to us. To empower them would be huge. I think, to me, they've always had the responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that we've surrounded them with so much garbage, and this from the perspective of a guy who commanded a battalion and brigade and thousands of soldiers and lots of company commanders. I know the kind of garbage I had to shield them from. It's almost like the attacks you're dealing with this morning on a command level.
Yeah,
they're constantly being harassed, and it's amazing when you sit down and, I'll give an example. I had a plan, and I said, we're going to fly an air assault mission fully planned out twice a week. Different companies rotating through, being the primary planner. Other companies would help. And we did night missions twice a week, low level, regardless of, the lighting conditions. Weather could dictate, of course, but everybody's like, wow, this is an amazing focus. I'm like, yeah. And the funny thing is, it was so simple. We're doing this twice a week. Everything else I don't care about.
Yeah. Well, when I walked into the 20th Special Operations Squadron, General Richard Comey, he said, sit down, Captain. And he said, one thing, I don't care about the paperwork. It doesn't matter. We'll fix it if you make a mistake. Let me know. We'll make a mistake. Don't lie to me. But he said, I want you to be able to fight day one. You get the call. I want you ready to go. And that never left me. So I feel like that needs to come back. Maybe it's coming back. Do you think the commanders will take that to heart and take it to their troops?
Those who will take it to heart and take it to their troops are the ones who've been waiting on it patiently and doing the best they can to filter out all that garbage as usual. And then there, of course, going to be those others who, frankly, if it were me, I'd love to be able to tell them, hey, go out the back door to your left to room 1776. There are personnel clerks who will process your retirement on the spot if this is the military you don't think you belong in.
Yeah.
Happy to help you move on to your next stage in life. And by the way, most of those, let's just use a brigadier general 1-star, for example, or a equivalent for an admiral. Most of the time, it's not whether or not someone junior ranking to them, even two positions junior, doesn't mean they can't do the job. It just means they lack the authority. And I've told people that all the time. It's not always about the ability. It's about the authority. And I mean, I'm pretty sure I had a lot more talent than a lot of brigadier generals by the time I retired.
Well, Hegseth mentioned World War II several times about, the political commander and the military commander having the door open between their offices. He called all the officers in prior to World War II, a focus on war fighting, fired a lot of people. I hope this continues. Let me ask you, as a former rotor head like you, did you feel like you had enough flight time? That always bothered me. I didn't ever feel like I got to the point where it was always like on the edge of danger, like, because we were doing such complicated missions, and maybe it's just the nature of it, but I never felt like I've done this so many times, I got it. It was more like, I've done this enough, I can do it. I mean, what do you think?
Well, I guess I would caveat all these statements by saying that I don't think there's ever enough flight time. And if you're ever thinking that you're there, you're not.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You are now the safety problem and probably
Yeah.
the next accident. But to also be fair, 2,500 hours or so in Black Hawk for me, or total flight time combined with multiple airframes. I knew I wasn't there, but I knew also that I spent most of a year deployment flying at night in high, heavy, and hot altitudes and dusty and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
For a reason, because I was fairly low risk compared to my peers. As a commissioned officer in the Army, you can have a career where in aviation where you don't fly very much at all just because of the way it plays out. I started out right away as becoming a pilot in command as a lieutenant in Korea. Good circumstances and situation that played out through the rest of my career. I did very well with flight hours. You always want more.
Yeah.
For commissioned officers and warrant officers who do not get enough flight time, especially now outside of the combat zones, because Iraq and Afghanistan being over, that they're not getting what they need in order to be prepared for what's next. And the experience has been vacated. So, or a lot of the experience has been vacated. So we got to get back to, I don't know, commander's intent that is very simple, like you got and like I gave too. Do these two things. Everything else, I don't care.
Yeah. And I think people are going to have to scare themselves and unfortunately relearn some wisdom that maybe have been lost, because you get that passed down, the old sergeant who says, "Lieutenant, come here, I got to tell you how to do this," behind the scenes. That kind of stuff has to be maybe relearned, which is unfortunate. And as all the notes, cautions, and warnings were written in blood in the flight manual because somebody experienced something that wasn't pretty. And so you figure out how to deal with that and move on. Speaking of that, Hexeth got into training and said, "I want every unit to do PT every day." I found that wonderful to hear, and just a breath of fresh air. And he also said women are not going to, there's going to be a gender neutral standard. And I believe he said no women in combat arms. Did I take that right? Did you hear that the same way I heard it? I know he said gender neutral, but I thought he said no women in combat arms.
Well, I may have missed that correctly too.
Yeah.
My understanding, what I did hear very clearly was that if there's a standard, then everybody meets the standard regardless of women or men.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not there. And he was also right that there are men who can do certain things.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
For me to say I'm going to go to Special Forces assessment and selection right now at my age and condition, yeah, guess what? I'm your risk. It's not going to happen. And there are going to be situations where people don't make the cut. That's the whole point.
Yes, exactly.
It's supposed to be elite. And that needs to happen for sure. The women in combat arms piece, there's the political side of it, of course, but the reality of it is, even when women can be in something like infantry, artillery, or armor in a kind of war that's not Iraq or Afghanistan, it tends to not be a very good situation. And the reason why has nothing to do with a personal woman's potential capability to meet all physical standards. There are medical requirements women have that men don't. It's simple, basic science. Yeah. There's a mentality that is, if men are raised right, there's a mentality within the male psyche that will go above and beyond to protect the women.
That's nature.
Take risks that they wouldn't normally take. That's the reality.
Yeah.
So.
He also said that basic training will be scary again. Did you? I found that refreshing as well. Let me find that quote. But what did you think of that?
Made me go right back to basic training again. And you're supposed to be intimidated.
Yes.
And that's where AAA personality types go to get humiliated and learn that, you can build yourself up. Some build themselves up from the ground more than others. Just everybody's got an individual story. But basics training is supposed to be tough, supposed to be scary, supposed to be intimidating, supposed to build people into something a whole lot stronger than when they arrived.
Yes.
Now that assumes you've got drill sergeants and and trainers and instructors that, one, know how to do that, two, have been through something similar themselves and know how it looks from being there. So this is not a switch you're going to flip. This is going to take some time, but it's obviously a very good policy goal, and it needs to be enacted very quickly.
Well, when they started the Air Force Academy, they had no upper class cadre, so they brought in drill instructors from Lackland Air Force Base up in Denver. Maybe it was Lowry. I can't remember the name, but they, that may need to happen. They may need to bring people out of retirement. And he said scary, difficult, and tough for basic training. But I think you just like General Kane, you got to pull people out that know how to do it if you don't have people inside that know how to do it. You
do. And, with the PT thing too, I think that's great as far as, physical training every day. That's guidance. How you do it can vary. I'll tell you, as a company commander of an aviation unit in Fort Drum, New York, I gave guidance to my company that said, your PT test and your scores are on you as an individual.
Yeah.
We focused on aviation maintenance. We have different requirements than infantry. We have duty days. We have very technical skills, all these different factors that weigh into how you do it. The question is, was I successful in how I approached it? Well, in a light infantry division for an aviation company that had the highest PT average for the scores, I think the results spoke for themselves. But this is how you translate intent into action with a variety of different skill sets, because PT every day in the Navy means something different than it does to the Marines. It's just a fact of life.
He also said no more beardos, no more poor grooming, no more individuality, no more, I think no more dudes in dresses. That was the quote that I took. No more climate change worship. We are done with that shit. That's a quote. I found that very, very refreshing. And, I have relatives in the force, and I just found it. I was very happy for them that they get to live under this commander-in-chief and not the garbage, traitorous, Maoist crap we had in the last 5 years.
Yeah. And by the way, that also means that we need to make sure this is carried forward for as many administrations as possible.
So true.
Because we know as Americans, we tend to go to sleep sometimes at the wheel and forget that, we think someone like a Gavin Newsom is worthy of leadership.
Yeah.
He would bring back and destroy things just as quick as Biden ever did. So we got to keep this train going. This is not a 3-year, everything is solved in 3 years type of a problem.
And that's where the elections come in, and we'll focus on that on another show. But wow, what a morning. It's been kind of crazy. By the way, our ex-audience, they're suppressing it heavily today. The Rumble channel didn't work. The equipment's not working. I mean, StreamYard screwed up. It's just, I had to go to a new level on DDoS protection yesterday, just because, they're coming at us hard. And even my large cloud service provider said, we haven't seen this. This is serious state actor level. So they don't like what we're saying, but what else do you want the world to know, Darin, before I know? When is your next appointment, by the way? When is your next hit?
Looks like I got another one in hour and a half.
Oh, okay. So
on Newsmax with Bianca De La Garza, same topic with the Hegseth speech. We'll be seeing what Trump adds on. But the most dangerous thing in the world is the truth.
Let's talk operational a little bit. What's your any thoughts on what Trump is doing with Ukraine? He's saying that he may, the media narrative is that he may give Tomahawks to Zelensky, who asked for it. I hope that doesn't happen. That's just recipe for World War III. What's your thought there?
You almost quoted me from what I said on Chris Salcedo's show yesterday on Newsmax. Mm-hmm. That headline had come out. I was asked specifically what I thought about that, and I said that's not solving anything. It's making it worse, and I hope it's just a negotiating tactic and not a physical reality ever.
Yeah.
I'm more the kind of guy who says at this point that Europe, if you're going to keep doing what you're doing and think that this is so much of a problem for you, then take it on.
Yeah.
We're going to wash our hands of this. We got bigger problems. You've got it. And just walk away. I know the history. You know the history of all the things Ukraine, from the fall of the Berlin Wall to today. And we know we're not hands clean on this as America.
Yeah.
But how long does that history continue to punish us as tax-paying citizens and maybe grow this thing into a war that it shouldn't be, which is a whole lot bigger and broader and many more nations involved? No, thank you.
So Middle East, Gaza, they put a plan together. Netanyahu was at the White House. He was forced to apologize to the Qatari government. I think a lot of this is theater, but it looks like they've kind of, at least the Israeli narrative is they've boxed in Hamas. Either you take it and you're defeated, or you don't, and the war continues. I mean, what say you?
Yeah, I used the word theater last night. I mean, everybody knows whenever there's an agreement between the United States and Israel and potentially a few other countries, Hamas comes in and says, no, thanks.
Yeah.
And you knew that going in, but you have to keep pointing your finger and say, Hamas, we know this is you rejecting it, and go from there. What Israel does is what Israel does from there. So be it. Maybe the Abraham Accords expand, maybe not. But in the end, based on that and what some of the nations did at the United Nations General Assembly, recognizing a non-existent state that's never existed and a people that still don't exist because they're Jordanians and Egyptians, mostly anyways, I say it's time for the United Nations to vacate New York, put their new headquarters in Gaza, and stand on the ground that they support.
Interesting.
And we need to defund it, our part of it.
Well, yeah. Pacific, there is a lot of rumors that China is preparing to invade Taiwan. I mean, we've heard that they're preparing for years. Is it getting more intense, in your opinion?
Hard to say for sure. I guess there's the military reality that, you're familiar with this too. Taiwan is not an easy island to invade by anybody, much less the China that's never done something like that before in their history. Anything they've done has always been basically by land, and it's been only moderately successful. Their military is not well trained or outfitted. They try to look bigger than they really are on paper. And, is it a concern? It should be, absolutely. But there's a lot of problems in China, and some of it is the fact that President Xi Jinping is losing his power base, and there are people who are starting to work around him, even directly with the United States, because of how bad China is failing economically and demographically. She's got a clock on him, and it's only wound to a certain point, and it's running out pretty quick.
Really interesting. Anything else you want the world to know, Pete or Doug? Why am I saying Pete? And Pete Hexath. Darin, I promoted you there for a minute.
I'm not going to be the Secretary of War anytime soon. I'm not moving to DC. Well, regardless of all things going on around us, I don't want to be totally negative. There's a lot of hope out there. There's a lot of great movement. There's a lot of good things happening. We need to get behind all those things and keep this train moving, and let everybody know that they all need to get behind this and keep supporting what's happening, calling out what things you disagree with too. Don't be afraid to do that. But there's a lot of positive movement, and it's got to keep going for 12, 16 or longer years to get where it needs to be. So let's all help.
Outstanding. Thank you so much, Darin. We'll see you again. Take care.
Sounds good, Todd. Thanks.
The bird flu is circulating. We're getting more and more press, more fear mongering, more warnings about this. First, let's start with that. What say you on?
Well, what I say is it specifically is not circulating. It's in animals. There's one human, maybe two transmissions, no human-to-human transmission. And stand by, everybody. If there is some sort of sudden human-to-human transmission, you should immediately be suspicious that gain of function was involved with that. Just the fact that they're taking an animal virus and going nuts on it in the press and talking about it all the time, that to me leads me to believe that they have concerns that somebody is doing something with that virus, because this would not happen naturally, in my opinion.
Our world is changing rapidly. Many crucial systems we depend upon are collapsing. And the most important system that is failing is the food supply.
Mr. President, this Council is more than aware of the multiple challenges and threats the world is facing today. But the threat of famine, people starving slowly to death, must be a red line.
These food prices are going to keep going up and up, and they're going to keep feeding excuse after excuse, narrative after narrative. Yeah, where you're going to have to get off that treadmill and start getting more autonomous with your own food growing.
You want to make sure that you can eat, because frankly, food is the biggest issue as we are going through these transitions.
But amidst the chaos, there is a path to resilience. Marjorie Wildcraft is the female leader of the survival and preparedness movement. Marjorie has taught millions of people how to grow an abundance of food in a grid-down situation, even if you have no experience, are older, or out of shape.
I've spent decades finding the fastest, easiest, and funnest ways for the average person to be able to grow a lot of food. I've created a step-by-step process that's so simple that even kids to elders have been using it in order to grow a lot of their own food. And you can too, even if you have no experience, you're older, or you're out of shape.
Growing your own food is like printing your own money. Get started today.
Welcome back to the SCIF. We're dealing with a lot of crap today. The Twitter X channels are suppressed heavily. Our CDM1 Rumble channel didn't work. We had some weird stuff happening with StreamYard. We had to go to alternate equipment, all right in the beginning of the show, obviously timed. We've had DDoS attacks now for days. Spending a lot of the money there. If you can support us, make a donation on cdm.press where it says support us. Or you can sign up. Well, you need to, if you haven't done it yet, sign up for our no ad subscriptions. Top right corner of the site, subscribe with no ads. It's $10 a month or $100 a year. A lot of people just pay the 100, get it out of the way, and you're done for a year with no ads popping up, and you support free media for your children. So a lot going on. That was Darin Gaub. Hegseth had a wonderful speech this morning. Today is the last day of September 30th. I'm your host, Todd Wood. This is your mission brief. Terminator hits. I'm going to play a video in a bit. Actually, you can go to, I'll try to get to it. We're just slammed today. I didn't have a cold open because we put the patent speech up due to Hegseth's speech. But it's on armedforces.press, but there is a video of a drone shooting through a window at a hospital worker in Gaza and hitting him in the head. Just unbelievable. So Terminator is here. The robots are here, my friends. And warfare is completely changed, and the U.S. needs to get on board with this pronto. Trump peace plan in Gaza. We saw that yesterday. I talked about Darin with that. The Israeli finance minister, Smotrich, trashed it and said, it's not good for Israel. Hamas is kind of boxed in. That's the narrative coming out with the Israeli influencers. So either they accept peace and disarmed and defeated, or don't accept peace and the war continues and they're killed. So that's kind of where they are. The Arabs are behind the peace plan, though. So we'll see what happens. Candace Owens had some disclosures yesterday, really wild. We'll walk through that in a minute at some point in the show on the actual assassination of Kirk. She says that the dude didn't do it. So we'll let you make your own decisions. Trump has put 100% tariffs on movies coming into the U.S. The Chinese have long dominated Hollywood. We hope there's a movement, and we're trying to do that with our part, culture-wise, to help impact the culture, because everything's downstream from culture. Politics is downstream from culture. Communism is downstream from culture. Obviously, we've seen it, so it's important. We'll continue to follow the movie industry, especially because we have the Miami or the Georgia paper, where there's a huge movie industry, and the Manhattan, which obviously is the business side of the business, and we're going to report on that. And will there be a government shutdown? So far, it looks like it. We'll see on that. I'm going to play a little bit of Hegseth's speech because I think this is important. We got Pete Blaber coming on at the top of the hour, and we'll continue to do Ukraine SitRep and what's going on in Ukraine. And I apologize for all the problems this morning, but it wasn't our fault. We'll throw up the show on Rumble, so it'll be on our channel after this. But here we go with Secretary of War Pete Hegseth.
We just have to be honest. We have to say with our mouths what we see with our eyes. to just tell it like it is in plain English, to point out the obvious things right in front of us. That's what leaders must do. We cannot go another day without directly addressing the plank in our own eye, without addressing the problems in our own commands and in our own formations. This administration has done a great deal from day one to remove the social justice, politically correct, and toxic ideological garbage that had infected our department, to rip out the politics. No more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses. No more climate change worship. No more division, distraction, or gender delusions. No more debris. As I've said before, and will say again, we are done with that shit. I've made it my mission to uproot the obvious distractions that made us less capable and less lethal. That said, the War Department requires the next step. Underneath the woke garbage is a deeper problem, and a more important problem that we are fixing and fixing fast. Common sense is back at the White House, so making the necessary changes is actually pretty straightforward. President Trump expects it. And the litmus test for these changes is pretty simple. Would I want my eldest son, who is 15 years old, eventually joining the types of formations that we are currently wielding? If in any way the answer to that is no, or even yes, but, then we're doing something wrong. Because my son is no more important than any other American citizen who dons the cloth of our nation. He is no more important than your son. All precious souls made in the image and likeness of God. Every parent deserves to know that their son or their daughter that joins our ranks is entering exactly the kind of unit that the Secretary of War would want his son to join. Think of it as the golden rule test. Jesus said, do unto others that's what you would have done unto yourself. It's the ultimate simplifying test of truth. The new War Department golden rule is this: do unto your unit as you would have done unto your own child's unit. Would you want him serving with fat or unfit or undertrained troops? Or alongside people who can't meet basic standards? Or in a unit where standards were lowered so certain types of troops could make it in? In a unit where leaders were promoted for reasons other than merit, performance, and warfighting? The answer is not just no, it's hell no. This means at the War Department, first and foremost, we must restore a ruthless, dispassionate, and common sense application of standards. I don't want my son serving alongside troops who are out of shape, or in combat unit with females who can't meet the same combat arms physical standards as men, or troops who are not fully proficient on their assigned weapons, platform, or task, or under a leader who was the first, but not the best. Standards must be uniform, gender neutral, and high. If not, they're not standards.
Jest wojna.
Department of War directives that are arriving at your commands as we speak and in your inbox. Today, at my direction, each service will ensure that every requirement for every combat MOS, for every designated combat arms position, returns to the highest male standard only. Because this job is life or death. Standards must be met. And not just met, at every level, we should seek to exceed the standard, to push the envelope, to compete. It's common sense and core to who we are and what we do. It should be in our DNA. Today, at my direction, we are also adding a combat field test for combat arms units that must be executable in any environment at any time and with combat equipment. These tests, they'll look familiar. They'll resemble the Army Expert Physical Fitness Assessment or the Marine Corps Combat Fitness Test. I'm also directing that warfighters in combat jobs execute their service fitness test at a gender-neutral, age-normed male standard scored above 70%. It all starts with physical fitness and appearance. If the Secretary of War can do regular, hard PT, so can every member of our joint force. Frankly, it's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are. So whether you're an airborne ranger or a chairborne ranger, a brand new private or a 4-star general, you need to meet the height and weight standards and pass your PT test. And as the chairman said, yes, there is no PT test. But today, at my direction, every member of the joint force at every rank is required to take a PT test twice a year, as well as meet height and weight requirements twice a year, every year of service. Also today, at my direction, every warrior across our joint force is required to do PT every duty day. Should be common sense. I mean, most units do that already, but we're codifying it. And we're not talking like hot yoga and stretching. Real hard PT, either as a unit or as an individual. At every level, from the Joint Chiefs to everyone in this room to the youngest private, leaders set the standard. And so many of you do this already. Active, Guard, and Reserve. This also means grooming standards. No more beards, long hair, superficial individual expression. We're going to cut our hair, shave our beards, and adhere to standards. Because it's like the broken windows theory of policing. It's like when you let the small stuff go, the big stuff eventually goes. So you have to address the small stuff. This is on duty, in the field, and in the rear. If you want a beard, you can join Special Forces. If not, then shave. We don't have a military full of Nordic pagans. But unfortunately, we have had leaders who either refuse to call BS and enforce standards, or leaders who felt like they were not allowed to enforce standards. Both are unacceptable. And that's why today, at my direction, the era of unprofessional appearance is over. No more beardos. The era of rampant and ridiculous shaving profiles is done. Simply put, if you do not meet the male-level physical standards for combat positions, cannot pass a PT test, or don't want to shave and look professional, it's time for a new position or a new profession. I sincerely appreciate the proactive efforts the secretaries have already taken in some of those areas, service secretaries. And these directives are intended to simply accelerate those efforts. On the topic of standards, allow me a few words to talk about toxic leaders. Upholding and demanding high standards is not toxic. Enforcing high standards, not toxic leadership. Leading warfighters toward the goals of high, gender-neutral, and uncompromising standards in order to forge a cohesive, formidable, and lethal Department of War is not toxic. It is our duty, consistent with our constitutional oath. Real toxic leadership is endangering subordinates with low standards. Real toxic leadership is promoting people based on immutable characteristics or quotas instead of based on merit. Real toxic leadership is promoting destructive ideologies that are an anathema to the Constitution and the laws of nature and nature's God, as Thomas Jefferson wrote in the Declaration of Independence. The definition of toxic has been turned upside down, and we're correcting that. That's why today, at my direction, we're undertaking a full review of the department's definitions of so-called toxic leadership, bullying, and hazing, to empower leaders to enforce standards without fear of retribution or second guessing. Of course, you can't do like nasty bullying and hazing. We're talking about words like bullying and hazing and toxic. They've been weaponized and bastardized inside our formations, undercutting commanders and NCOs. No more. Setting, achieving, and maintaining high standards is what you all do. And if that makes me toxic, then so be it. Second, today at our direction, we're ensuring that every service, every unit, every schoolhouse, and every form of professional military education conduct an immediate review of their standards. Now, we've done this in many places already, but today it goes across the entire Department of War. Any place where tried and true physical standards were altered, especially since 2015 when combat arms standards were changed to ensure females could qualify, must be returned to their original standard. Other standards have been manipulated to hit racial quotas as well, which is just as unacceptable. This too must end. Merit only. The president talks about it all the time, merit-based. Here are two basic frameworks I urge you to pursue in this process. Standards I call, my staff's heard all about them, the 1990 test and the E6 test. The 1990s test is simple. What were the military standards in 1990? And if they have changed, tell me why. Was it a necessary change based on the evolving landscape of combat? Or was the change due to a softening, weakening, or gender-based pursuit of other priorities? 1990s seems to be as good a place to start as any. And the E6 test. Ask yourself, does what you're doing make the leadership, accountability, and lethality efforts of an E6, or frankly an O3, does it make it easier or more complicated? Does the change empower staff sergeants, petty officers, and tech sergeants to get back to basics? The answer should be a resounding yes. The E6 test or O3 test clarifies a lot, and it clarifies quickly. Because war does not care if you're a man or a woman. Neither does the enemy. Nor does the weight of your rucksack, the size of an artillery round, or the body weight of a casualty on the battlefield who must be carried. This, and I want to be very clear about this, this is not about preventing women from serving. We very much value the impact of female troops. Our female officers and NCOs are the absolute best in the world. But when it comes to any job that requires physical power to perform in combat, those physical standards must be high and gender neutral. If women can make it, excellent. If not, it is what it is. If that means no women qualify for some combat jobs, so be it. That is not the intent, but it could be the result, so be it. It will also mean that weak men won't qualify because we're not playing games. This is combat. This is life or death. As we all know, this is you versus an enemy hell-bent on killing you. To be an effective, lethal fighting force, you must trust that the warrior alongside you in battle is capable, truly physically capable of doing what is necessary under fire. You know, this is the only standard you would want for your kids and for your grandkids. Apply the War Department Golden Rule, the 1990 test, and the E6 test, and it's really hard to go wrong. Third, we are attacking and ending the walking on eggshells and zero defect command culture. A risk-averse culture means officers execute not to lose instead of to win. A risk-averse culture means NCOs are not empowered to enforce standards. Commanders and NCOs don't take necessary risks or make tough adjustments for fear of rocking the boat or making mistakes. A blemish-free record is what peacetime leaders covet the most, which is the worst of all incentives. We, as senior leaders, need to end the poisonous culture of risk aversion and empower our NCOs at all levels to enforce standards. Truth be told, for the most part, we don't need new standards. We just need to reestablish a culture where enforcing standards is possible. And that's why today, at my direction, I'm issuing new policies that will overhaul the IG, EO, and MEO processes. I call it the no more walking on eggshells policy. We are liberating commanders and NCOs. We are liberating you. We are overhauling an inspector general process, the IG, that has been weaponized, putting complainers, ideologues, and poor performers in the driver's seat. We're doing the same with the equal opportunity and military equal opportunity policies, the EO and MEO at our department. No more frivolous complaints, no more anonymous complaints, no more repeat complainants, no more smearing reputations, no more endless waiting, no more legal limbo, no more sidetracking careers, no more walking on eggshells. Of course, being a racist has been illegal in our formation since 1948. The same goes for sexual harassment. Both are wrong and illegal. Those kinds of infractions will be ruthlessly enforced. But telling someone to shave or get a haircut or to get in shape or to fix their uniform or to show up on time or to work hard, that's exactly the kind of discrimination we want. We are not civilians. You are not civilians. You are set apart for a distinct purpose. So we as a department need to stop acting and thinking like civilians and get back to basics and put the power back in the hands of commanders and NCOs. Commanders and NCOs who make life and death decisions. Commanders and NCOs who enforce standards and ensure readiness. Commanders and NCOs who in this War Department have to look in the mirror and they have to pass the golden rule test. My kids, your kids, America's sons and daughters. So I urge you all here today and those watching, take this guidance and run with it. The core of this speech is the 10 directives we're announcing today. They were written for you, for Army leadership, for Navy leadership, for Marine Corps leadership, for Air Force leadership, Space Force leadership. These directives are designed to take the monkey off your back and put you, the leadership, back in the driver's seat. Move out with urgency because we have your back. I have your back. And the Commander-in-Chief has your back. And when we give you this guidance, we know mistakes will be made. It's the nature of leadership. But you should not pay for earnest mistakes for your entire career. And that's why today, at my direction, we're making changes to the retention of adverse information on personnel records that will allow leaders with forgivable, earnest, or minor infractions to not be encumbered by those infractions in perpetuity. People make honest mistakes, and our mistakes should not define an entire career. Otherwise, we only try not to make mistakes, and that's not the business we're in. We need risk takers and aggressive leaders and a culture that supports you. Fourth, at the War Department, promotions across the Joint Force will be based on one thing: merit. Colorblind, gender-neutral, merit-based. The entire promotion process, including evaluations of warfighting capabilities, is being thoroughly re-examined. We've already done a lot in this area, but more changes are coming soon. We'll promote top-performing officers and NCOs faster and get rid of poor performers more quickly. Evaluations, education, and field exercises will become real evaluations, not box checks, for every one of us at every level. These same reforms happened before World War II as well. General George Marshall and Secretary of War Henry Stimson did the same thing. And we won a world war because of it. As it happens, when he started the job, Can
I ask a question about the nicotine pouches?
Yes.
Does it melt in your mouth, or do you have to spit it out later?
You can spit it out, you can swallow it, or you just savor it. I mean, you throw it in like you would a dip of tobacco.
Okay.
But you just let it sit there, and then it suffuses your nervous system with life-giving nicotine. And it really does feel like the hand of God is massaging you.
But does it feel like the high of smoking a cigarette?
It's simultaneously, if you can imagine the Zen paradox, higher alertness accompanied by deep relaxation.
Wow.
So you really are, it's a Zen experience. You're like cat-like in your readiness, but you're fully
And how long does it
relaxed.
last?
I always have one going. Sometimes if things are, if I need it, I'll put another one in. So I've got 18 milligrams of nicotine, but that gives me an unfair advantage.
You're banging 18 milligrams? Woo. That's impressive.
I don't like to, because everybody else kind of recedes into the background and I become this kind of colossus when I do that, and I feel guilty about it. Hubris is inevitable at that point. So I usually keep it to one.
I mean, I could use a new addiction.
Oh, yes.
What's the gateway drug level? What would you prescribe?
This sits between caffeine and
sell
cocaine.
a 3 milligram, but there's a transition, like all great addictions. Like, it's not instant. You do vomit at first, but then your body acclimates.
Wait is finally over. My towels are back in stock, but not for long. Get a 6-piece My Towel set, regular $69.98, now only $39.98. Towels that actually work. What a concept. And that's not all. Check out our My Pillow bed sheets, only $29.88. Any color, any style, any size, even kings, regular $119.98, now only $29.88. And how about our limited edition premium My Pillows, made with Giza cotton and a designer gusset, made exclusively for you to thank you for all your support. Queens $17.98, Kings only $19.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get My Towels for $39.98, My Pillow bed sheets only $29.88, and our limited edition My Pillow Queens $17.98 and Kings only $19.98. Quantities won't last long, so order now.
Sorry, guys. It's been a challenge this morning. We have multiple things going on. As I mentioned, DDoS attack this morning. The Rumble's streams are not working. X is seriously depressed. Somebody doesn't like what we're saying, but we're going to keep talking. And I'm going to bring in Pete Blaber now. We're going to do Ukraine SitRep because there's a lot going on there. And I think that's maybe what they don't want people to hear. So here's our good friend, Pete. How you doing, my friend?
Good. How are you, Todd?
I'm good, man. Well, we're dealing with a lot of garbage. Right before the show, we had massive attacks in multiple areas, but it is what it is. We're dealing with it, and we're getting good at dealing with it. So it's all good. It's part of the job. So I have a lot teed up for you. I have the Zelensky video. I have a lot of images you sent. So, but I want to ask you first about the Hexas speech. I played the Patton speech at the beginning of the show. I thought the speech was fantastic. It was what needed to be said. The question now is execution. What say you?
Yeah, that was a great summary, Todd. When you listen to him, he hit on all the key points that used to be foundational to our military. No one would have batted an eye if someone had said that back in the early 2000s or in the 90s. And so everything he talked about, physical fitness, you can't be a warrior, you can't be a functioning, competent warrior unless you're physically fit. So that's just a non-negotiable, and it's across the board, and there's no prejudice. It's the most objective criteria you can find given the requirement of the job. Then the merit-based promotion, just saying that out loud to those general officers. And remember, one of the issues that the Department of Defense has is this tainted accession process, promotion process has been going on since 2009. That's when the Obama administration changed the criteria for selection. It started with the 4-star general selection process, and then it just leaked all the way down. So we've got generals sitting in that room who, are going, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for that. They're not all taking it in a way that you and I are going, wow, yes.
Well, he said that in the speech. He said, if you're cringing at this speech, it's time for you to resign.
Yeah.
I started clapping. Like, yeah.
No, I give the guy a lot of credit. A lot of one of the problems with that job, and I totally agree with the separation. Civilian leadership. The person should be a civilian. He's different. He was reserve. He was working in a civilian job, so he's kind of a hybrid. But most of the civilians are intimidated by the 4 stars and the brass, and they don't feel comfortable talking to them and telling them, here's the way it's going to be. And he's obviously very comfortable with that, very self-actualized. Just
that's a really
good,
that's a good point, because I felt like he came into his own here. Because yes, he's young. What was it? Milley or one of the other generals said, I'm not used to reporting to a major or some crap like that. Like disrespectful crap. I mean, it's civilian authority, dude. That's what you're reporting to. And I really thought Hegseth came into the position during this speech. Before I've seen him as kind of, as you said, timid, maybe a little unsure of himself, but this was real today.
Yeah, agree. Bravo, Hegseth.
So let's move on to Ukraine. Do you want to play that Zelensky video first? Is that where you want to go?
We're just going to start with Zelensky at the UN, and this is an example of what we've been talking about, the propaganda cycle, which is now in full 100% one-up mode with a nuance. The propaganda target has shifted. It used to be focused primarily on the Russian people, trying to, delude them into thinking everything was hopeless. They need to get rid of Putin and their government, bring in a new government, and then everything will be okay. But really, the whole goal of the EU and the globalists is to get rid of Putin. It's more personal than it is nationalistic against Russia. So, they've been focusing on the people. That's for years it was on the Russian people, but that has shifted. The propaganda target now is the Western citizens of the West, the U.S., of Europe, trying to get us to believe that there's Russia presents an existential threat to Europe, and by proxy to the United States, and that something needs to be done. They need to go to a war footing. They need to take special dispensation. So remember, the three-step process was make a lie. The bigger, the more controversial, the better. Repeat the lie through the global MSM network as often as possible over time. And then third, pivot off that lie and not only build new lies off it, but use that lie as in a factual way to prove the new lies that you're making up. So go ahead, we could show a quick bite of him, sound bite of him at the UN.
Can guarantee security. Only strong alliances, only strong partners, and only our own weapons. The 21st century isn't much different from the past. If a nation wants peace, it still has to work on weapons. It's sick, but that's the reality. Not international law, not cooperation. Weapons decide who survives. Excellencies, you know perfectly well international law doesn't work fully unless you have powerful friends who are truly willing to stand up for it. And even that doesn't work without weapons. We are now living through the most destructive arms race in human history, because this time includes artificial intelligence. And if there are no real security guarantees except friends and weapons, And if the world can't respond even to old threats, and if there is no strong platform for international security, will there be any place left on Earth that's still safe for people? We need global rules now.
So just he goes on, and I'll just sum up to you some of the highlights, because he went on and on. There's nobody in the auditorium, and this we can maybe show it next time. It's kind of funny. The image, there's an image that shows the empty auditorium, and then to Ukraine and Europe, there's an image where they photoshopped in the place being full. But here's the highlight of what he said. He said, none of what is happening today would have happened if Russian President Putin had not started this full-scale aggression. He warned the use of Zelensky warned the use of chemical weapons and famine as weapons against his people, to include the abduction of thousands of Ukrainian children. He also noted recent drone and fighter jet incursions into Poland and Estonia. And then he summed up by saying, stopping Russia now is cheaper than wondering who will be the first to create a simple drone carrying a nuclear warhead. So the reason I summed it up is every major propaganda lie / talking point from about the last 6 months, he pivoted off of just what we're talking about. He used in a factual way. Okay, so none of this, just to start, none of this would have happened if Putin had not started this full-scale aggression. So that's a propaganda lie. The war was started in 2014 by the EU and the Biden administration overthrowing the Yanukovych government. Like touching a rolling ball, when you touch it, you change its future trajectory. You also change where it ends up. Everything that's happened since 2014 is because of that overthrow. People need to get that in their heads. This war is because of that overthrow, and the passion, the hatred, the contempt that this war has created is because of that war, because of the neo-Nazi ultranationalist attack on the Eastern Ukrainians. He warned the use of chemical weapons and famines. So that's just blatant fear with no basis in fact. Chemical weapons, if the only ones who are suspected of using chemical weapons are the Ukrainians, because there's still 13 biolabs that were put in by the U.S. that no one knows what their purpose is or what they're producing. And then, of course, he pivoted off what he called the recent Russian drone and fighter jet incursion into Poland and Estonia. And then he tops it all off by doing what we talked about. Not only does he pivot off the lie of the drone incursion into Poland and the fighter jets in Estonia, he then builds off it. It says, stopping Russia now is cheaper than wondering who will be the first to create a simple drone carrying a nuclear warhead. So by doing that, he gets all of the Europeans to start thinking, wow, what's to stop them from putting a nuclear warhead on a drone?
You can see the progression, right? I mean, okay, we're going to create a drone incursion, which is false. We're going to make them scared of drones, and then you lay on the nuke layer to that. That's fascinating observation there, Pete.
Yeah. And so just to continue off that, now, just as we narrated, so remember, this started with Kellogg in Ukraine. He was the first guy. This was our last week's show. We showed it. He said we'd kick their ass. Russia is not winning. Russia's losing. Ukraine is winning. So he started those sound bites, and we watched as they went around the globe. We're going to show Lindsey Graham talking the same thing. Whoever wrote Trump's Truth Social, which you sent me an article on that. It looks like Sebastian Gorka had his hands on that. He's a huge anti-Putin pro-Ukraine guy himself. He's said some crazy things in the past. So, it's still a full-scale propaganda war. And unfortunately, like we said, the original targets, the Russians, are impervious to it. The Russian people believe so deeply in their own government and are so supportive of Putin and Lavrov and the rest of his foreign policy team that this stuff bounces off them, like water off a duck's back. But now there's a new thing, and again, we saw Kellogg start it in Ukraine, and that's that Russia is a paper tiger, and the continuation of this, Ukraine is winning. And we had an article this week. I don't know if you have it. It's the one that was in the Financial Times.
Yeah, I do have it. I'm not sure.
And so it's by Yuval Harari, the Israeli historian, who's also happens to be the WEF, the World Economic Forum's main spokesperson, and he's the guy who believes that the world is overpopulated.
I didn't realize he wrote that. That's amazing.
Yeah. His quote is, "We just don't need the vast majority of the population in the early 21st century, given modern technology, rendering human labor economically and militarily redundant."
So he's all in for the depopulation. That's what's going on here. He's authenticating.
So here's a guy,
right?
Yeah, here's a guy putting out an article. We need to keep fighting in Ukraine because Ukraine is winning, Russia's losing. And this is the main World Economic Forum representative and spokesman for depopulation. That's his thing, and that's what he believes in. But the article itself, go ahead, Todd.
No, I was going to say that's shocking. I mean, that's talking about connecting the dots. Wow.
Yeah. So the article is just lie upon lie upon lie. It goes again that how can we take Russia seriously? They can't even defeat Ukraine after 3.5 years, and it's laughable, really, because as we pointed out in our last episode, Russia is not fighting Ukraine; they're fighting NATO.
Yes.
And how can anyone think that Russia is not fighting NATO when you think of what they're up against? Ukraine has Starlink at its disposal. No other nation on earth, including the U.S., does not have a ubiquitous digital wireless network that they can count on, this being satellite, so it makes it so it's secure. They have Abrams tanks, F-16s, HIMARS, Leopard tanks, Javelins, the cutting-edge EW warfare, ATACMS, and of course, countless amounts of hard cash to pay mercenaries and the troops training them. We know what is on the books. We've given U.S. over $300 billion to Ukraine. And the sanctions against Russia are believed to have taken a toll of about $400 billion. So that's another weighted example of how this is not Russia against Ukraine. It's Russia against NATO. And so the central premise of his article that Ukraine's winning is that Russia's not. And of course, my comment on that is it's very easy to say that you're winning if you redefine what losing is. And that's what this article has done. It just changes the meaning of losing and tries to say that they're winning.
Well, I'm going to put that out on the network later today. That's a fantastic observation. I didn't realize Harari had wrote that. So you have, just for our audience sake, you have the guy who is in charge of depopulating the world for the World Economic Forum, who's wrote the book that God is dead and all this kind of stuff, is the guy wanting the Ukraine war to continue. I mean, that's depopulation 101. Here, let me play Lindsay just for a little bit, and then we can go back.
Yeah.
With more is South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. Senator, you have 85 co-sponsors for a bill to sanction countries that are funding Putin's war machine. Look, it's a nuclear-armed country. We don't want a conflict with Putin. I don't like that Biden got us into a proxy war, and he was giving all of these weapons. Trump is selling the weapons, and he's basically saying, maybe Putin is a paper tiger. He should have won that war in 7 days. Didn't happen.
Trump 2028. I hope this never ends. When he asks, what should you do if a Russian jet flies into your country? Shoot it down. He didn't say that. Out of his way to get Putin to the table. We don't want to humiliate Russia. We just want to end the war. And to our friends in Russia, here's what Trump did today. He told NATO, I'll sell you all the weapons you want. You can provide them to Ukraine. And as to Ukraine, you can use them any way you want. So to the Russian military, you're going to be up against the high-end American weapons that will be sold to NATO for the benefit of Ukraine. And this war is coming to your backyard here with no limitations like Biden. He's everything Biden wasn't. He stood up to the UN.
Okay, that's enough of that. But we don't want to hear too much. Lindsay, I can't take it. But
I know.
I mean, he's just, man, that bank account must be sitting pretty, Lindsay. I mean, he must be getting a lot of lobbyist money or WEF money or something. But the warmongering is amazing.
Yeah, and it also, we talked last week about Trump's shocking 180-degree turnaround on his comments about the war, saying in that True Social post, saying Ukraine could take back their terrain, they could win. And then we talked, it's most likely another part of the PSYOP. He's just agreeing with everything these crazed EU and globalists are saying in order to turn it over to them. Okay, you say you're winning, you can do all this, have at it, go at it. But it turns out we're finding that Trump doesn't write all his Truth Social posts, and I believe it. That thing was full of all these talking points, and you just saw Lindsey Graham. If you go back to that, he used two of them. He said, kick your ass and paper tiger. So both came out from Kellogg, both came from Ukraine. And now you see Trump, hopefully him or one of his people saw our episode last week where we talked about how absurd it was to call Russia a paper tiger because, and there was a direct because for it, because they've been fighting for 3.5 years and still haven't been able to defeat a country like Ukraine, who had the biggest army in Europe and is actually just a proxy for NATO in general. And the comparison was, what does that make us, the United States, after 20 years fighting against the Afghans? We must be a paper tiger too, by that definition. That's what we talked about last week. And Trump has now come out and hold that back.
Another point I want to make is that we're giving them a chance to just test all their weaponry against us, against our high-end stuff. There's no, there's no imagination anymore. Whether the Patriots work or not, because you've tested them, and you can, refine your tactics against our best weapon systems. To that, I find really disturbing.
Yeah, and again, that's where this thing, it's not linear. You can't take a logical purpose for anything that's happening and pull it all the way through, because it hits these points of illogic. And that's one of them right there. You'll hear over and over that this is a testing ground. We're learning a lot. No, we're not, because we still have the same weapon systems. We haven't changed any production schedules. We haven't said we're getting rid of the Patriot, the M1. We're just trying to modify them and trying to rationalize why they failed. There's been a couple of reports. They're not unclassified yet. Both those reports spend most of the report. These are DOD on weapon systems in Ukraine. Spend most of the report blaming the Ukrainians for not using the weapons properly.
Which is even worse because that gives them the ability to test and find weakness, right?
Yep. But these generals, the foundation of these supporters for the war, which you just put out an article, I just read it before I came on, about the shame of these ex-generals. You had Hodges on there, but includes Petraeus and Kellogg. And it is shameful. I've come to that. I'm totally embarrassed by these general officers, but they're operating, they're not just doing their job as paid influencers. They're driven by emotions. They have been diametrically wrong for 3 years. Diametrically calling out that the war will only take a year. The article that just came out, Ukraine's winning, says no one expected Ukraine to win. Really, everybody did. It was the biggest army in Europe, backed by U.S. Army's best and brightest generals and their staffs, commanding and controlling from Wiesbaden. Biden administration gave carte blanche, despite what you've heard that Biden put handcuffs on the Ukrainians. He didn't. And remember, we now know that it wasn't the Ukrainians begging for ATACMS. That was Cavoli, and that was the American generals who failed in their counteroffensive, and they said we need better weapons. The story just continues to be built on a house of lies, and that's what we're trying to do by pointing it out why it's happening.
Speaking of lies, let's play Donald Tusk in Poland. His comments.
The biggest and most important task for all opinion leaders today is to make other people realize in depth, profoundly, that goes in the depth of people's minds and their hearts. We should make Western societies and transatlantic society, we must make them aware. This is war. We didn't want it, unwanted war. Sometimes strange, a new type of war. But this is war. Like it or not, this is our war.
This is war. This is what we've waited for. This is it, boys. This is war. 99 red balloons. I just have that reflection back to the 80s, man. The song. It's just insane. I mean, these guys want. I mean, he's being paid by somebody to do this. I mean, he's indoctrinated or something. I mean, he wants a World War III. That's what they want. Depopulation, Harari, all of it. It's right there up in your grill.
Yeah. So let me tell you something that came out this week, and I got this from a source on the ground. It came out as a result of what's going on in Moldova right now, and the classic EU throwing of another election. The populist won. The EU came in, did a recount, and guess what happened? The pro-EU government won again. And what came out of it came from Ukraine. And it turns out there's a group of individuals, I'm not going to say anything, I'm not going to be specific about this, have been tracking the message, the evolution of these propaganda messages as they spread across the globe. And you wonder, well, why would you do that? Well, like anything, if you track it over time, you begin to see patterns. And what's happened is an overwhelming pattern has coalesced, which shows that the genesis of these propaganda weapons or propaganda messages is always from Ukraine. And so Zelensky, one of the things that has been tipping him off is Zelensky has been everything that the EU has said over the last about 3 to 6 months starts with Zelensky. And now there's a asterisk to that. It starts with Zelensky and Kellogg. And so the hypothesis, which is backed up by another incident that just happened during one of the heaviest night bombardments in Kyiv, an American on the ground tried to travel to one side of the city. And when they got there, a building they always thought was abandoned had about 500 people outside of it. They had been evacuated from the building. And the individual was American, asked, well, who are they? And he said, well, they're part of there was a slip up. They're part of the censorship network, the censorship network. So what we're finding out, not just with the algorithm, but this, this incident where this individual saw all these people and no one ever knew they were working. It's around the clock, 24/7. Is what we've pointed out in the past and Mike Benz narrated numerous times, and that's that the global censorship network is based out of Ukraine. And why is that significant? It's because we're starting to realize one of the main reasons these EU and these globalists are so obsessed with keeping the war going, because it doesn't make sense on any other factor, but it does when you consider the global censorship network. Think a cauterized IT network. In other words, it's not connected to the global web. It can come in and out of the global web, but it's cauterized from it. This takes all the potential for tracking it back to, as an example, the Democratic Party in the United States or to EU headquarters in Europe. So this is not only where they control the world narrative, it's where they control world elections. And they do it for Ukraine because it gives them this neutral site with none of their fingerprints on it.
Wow.
And
that's big.
Yeah,
we reported.
It is big.
And I'm trying to find it right now. I'll see if I can pull it up. But back in 19 and 20, we were completely deplatformed because of this reporting where we talked about, it wasn't as specific as what you're saying, but we talked about how the campaign against Manafort, which was fake, came out of Ukraine. The campaign against Bernie Sanders came out of Ukraine.
Yep.
All of it was being handled from Ukraine. So that's fascinating.
You were right, man. And so think about it. That's because we've been just scratching our heads. And we just saw, was that Tusk we just saw from Poland? So, and you just go, how can this guy be talking about war like it's World War II and the Nazi army just crossed his border? What fool would talk this way? There's got to be something more. And I believe this is what we've discovered it. I believe it's the global censorship network, and there's probably a global monetary network that supports that, a way to launder money, which we already know about with all the NGOs, but a way to launder money through Ukraine too. But the global censorship and global election throwing network is there. And if you remember in 2020, there's a huge amount of electronic signatures that were leaving the U.S. from the swing states, and they were going to where? To Ukraine. So it's a real possibility. We'll stay on it. Like I said,
you got to let me know if you get more on that. You got to let me know.
I will.
So
but
let me
it
just
shows
say
you.
This is real quick. This is an article from 2020 where we put out the Obama weaponized the federal government against the U.S. people, and it all started in Ukraine. This is under our investigations tab, the information operation against the American people. So you know
What's
what?
the date on that, Todd?
August 2, 2020.
Wow.
So for our audience, if you want to be early, dudes, this is it, man. We pay the price for it, and that's why they're shutting us down every time they can. But we've been on this for years. Back to you.
Yeah. So again, just thinking about that, think from the EU's perspective. EU knows, just like the Democratic Party, they cannot survive without cheating. They know because their ideas are bankrupt. They get it. They're finally, even the most disingenuous get it, that they cannot appeal to the majority. So they have to have these tools. And if you look at the EU, to keep the EU together, they need these countries. What's happening right now between with Hungary is, throwing them into a massive panic, because it's one of the subjects is, not falling into line. They can't control them. Well, they've been controlling them through the color revolution and through this election, manipulation process that they use, that's focused mostly on the courts in any country. They just come in and they start paying off the high-ranking judges in each different country. But that, you can see how important this is to them. And this is the only way they're going to be able to continue to cheat, especially with USAID being pulled down now. So it's completely plausible that this is what is, we've got to keep this war going or else, which is despicable, because the war is still as horrific as ever. The deaths are still up to 9,000 a week, which is crazy. I think we even had a video of some drone
I have that.
casualties.
Here we go.
But it's just another video to show people what we're not seeing, that the horrors of war, guys are just getting blown up who aren't even looking through the sights of their weapon.
I can't even watch this crap anymore. I mean, it's just too disturbing. But here we go. I mean, this is, combat porn. It's just not cool. I mean, I don't want my kids to have to deal with this garbage.
No, but it needs to be seen, because we talk about this war like it's a sporting event, and we just flippantly, this is my opinion, and then it's turned into a debate. It's not a debate. It's war where real men, innocent men who think they're going to do something patriotic, or who didn't even want to be there, are forced out there, and they're dying in droves for no reason. And I mean that. There is no reason. This war is a purposeless war. Everything about it is something other than it seems. It should never have started. There's no reason for Slavs to be killing Slavs.
It's depopulation.
Neighbors. It's
what it is.
Total depopulation.
It's a satanic human sacrifice. That's what we're seeing. 9,000 a week in 2025 is absurd. I mean, the only goal is depopulation, so they can have, we put out an article that this former Ukrainian Kubela, I think he said, well, after the war, we're going to have to import Bangladeshis, Indians, third world nations. This is all about killing the population so you can take the resources and then bring in the slaves to mine the resources. I think that's part of it. Maybe not all of it, but it's also depopulation.
Yeah, well, Harari, he states that's his central premise, that we just don't need these people anymore because of AI and tech. We don't need people to man factories, so we need to cut the population by at least 500 million, and then use our resources smartly. And I'll just say this about that. What a demented sociopathic view on humanity that is. The whole purpose of work is to keep people gainfully employed. In other words, keep them doing something. Every human has a right to live on this planet. And then we as humans have a responsibility to make the living conditions for ourselves and our fellow humans as viable as possible, as comfortable as possible. And one of the ways you do that is work. It's what so many of these Democratic politicians don't understand. Newsom doesn't understand. When you allow the factories, he's also an idiot, though. When you allow the factories to leave your small to medium-sized towns, I live in California, so Bakersfield, there's nothing in that town for people to live off of. There's nothing for them to make a living in the middle class, to raise their family, to go to school, and to live in a town, take pride in the town. And when you do that, you undermine the fabric of civilization. But the whole purpose of work, and every boss needs to understand that too, it's not some, privilege that you're allowing someone to work. Work is part of what we do as humans, and we keep ourselves employed, and we have to do that. No matter what AI becomes, we have to let humans continue to work. We can't go to a place where humans don't work, and then you fall right victim for people like this nut job millionaires who say, we don't need these serfs anymore. We've got artificial intelligence and high tech that can run the world.
Well, it's anti-human, Pete. I mean, it's the in the Genesis, go forth and multiply. I mean, that's what is commanded, and this is actually anti-human, anti-Christian. It's literally, I think we're dealing with the seed of Cain here. I mean, we're dealing with a satanic element that is maybe supernatural. I mean, it's insane what's going on. It's the face of evil, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. Back to you. Sorry.
No, it's that's it. So it's just we're walking you through. The propaganda shifted. The targets now the West, people in the United States, people in Europe, trying to delude us into thinking that everything's okay. In fact, it's better than okay. Ukraine is winning. We got to keep the war going, and it is a sick effort. It's diabolical as anything we've ever seen, and you and I will stay on this all the way to the end because it matters. And once again, we don't take sides. We're not pro-Russian or pro-Ukrainian.
No,
we're pro those guys who just got a drone missile embedded in their backs and stomachs without ever even know what hit them. We're pro those guys who are dying for no reason by the thousands.
On both sides.
And we believe it's worth stopping.
I agree. Let me just throw up a few things that we brought up for the show that we didn't get to. This is Hungary's response to Ukraine. Ukraine's lashing out at Hungary, where there's some deep-seated, localized animosity there from way back. This is talking about.
But just Todd, go back to that real quick because it's a good one. So this just shows you even the Ukraine's neighbors are pointing out the shallowness of their lies. So Zelensky said that the UAVs violated their airspace, and Syrskyi claimed that they were just scouting the industrial potential of border areas. So this is Syrskyi making an excuse for the Hungarians, which means he's making an excuse for the fake drones that Ukraine is flying across these borders. They were caught again, and they come up with a ridiculous excuse. But Hungary is really, and this is the same part of Hungary, this guy is anti-war, neutral toward Russia. But again, it's showing the lack of imagination, the lack of facts surrounding all these propaganda lies that are coming out of Ukraine these days.
Totally. This is Peskov talking about how dangerous it is to shoot down, talk about shooting down Russian aircraft, which is obvious to anyone with a brain. This is Orban talking about he's not going to stop buying oil from Russia, which is important because I think Trump knew that wasn't going to happen, and so that's another reason why he said, "Okay, I'll sanction Russia if all of the EU stops buying oil," which is not going to happen because that's their whole economy. Israel
right. And Hungary's landlocked. They can't pivot and get oil from a new source and have any chance of their already tenuous economy surviving. So common sense. And look, Orban said, that's diplomacy. Just say out loud the logic of why it makes sense or doesn't make sense to your country. And that's what he did to Trump. And Trump said, you're right. And, we can't get you, but what about, England, and what about France? They're not landlocked.
Yeah.
So
this is Israel is shipping Patriots. That's just a point of order there to Ukraine.
Yeah, I wanted to make a point about that, Todd. Israel, what's come out in the last couple of weeks, Israel has said that they perfected their laser anti-aircraft capability. And Ukraine, last week, Ukraine did a VTC. We showed, it was a video teleconference. We showed Petraeus was connected to it. It was the Alta Security Conference. They had 3 general officers that were part of it. They all VTC'd in, zoomed in, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 of them mentioned the same thing. They said, we've got some technology coming that's going to change the game. And we think, we're going to reverse things. It's always, let's hold on. There's a new technology, a game changer, but it's been out there. And when I saw this, it made me wonder, is the new Patriot that Israel is introducing, is it modified with one of their radars or something else? But it should be known to everyone that, Israel's making money off this too. And again, you almost can't help to get into the nefarious sides of money laundering if now we're going to allow Israel to sell weapons to Ukraine that Israel gets from us. So Israel makes money off them. It's sick. And I just can't see how President Trump can allow that to happen.
Which is not America first at all.
It's not at all.
Yeah. A couple more here. This is Peskov talking about the Nord Stream destruction and how, we still don't know what's going on there. Nobody wants to look at it. Obviously, it was the West that destroyed Germany's energy. And then the drones over, Denmark, which is obviously some kind of, it's some intelligence service or some like paramilitary group doing this. It's not Russia. It's something else, likely CIA or whoever is. I talked to some people recently. Maybe it was you that said they were probably testing some of these technologies. I forget who it was that I spoke to recently about that. But
when you see the word professional actor, you act, okay, so does that mean like Tom Hanks is out there flying the thing? Or are you talking about, by a professional actor, are you talking about a paid individual who is acting, who paid to create propaganda, to create fear? When you say professional actor, and I think it's the latter. I think they know, and they're not talking about it. But again, this is despicable. The fire they're playing with the EU on this, false flag stuff is atrocious, and everyone should look at it that way. No, but the biggest safeguard is don't believe anything that comes out of the EU at face value. Wait, pressure test it. It's just a massive tsunami of propaganda that we're getting these days.
But they know who's doing this, right? They know where the drones are coming from. They know it's off a boat. Here's the boat. Here's who owns the boat. Here's who's operating the boat. They know all of this. So they're letting this propaganda and fear spread on purpose, which is the point.
Yes.
Yeah.
To get their people, keep their people scared, to keep their own global censorship techniques in place so they can stay in power and keep the populace at bay.
Wow. Pete, thank you very much, man. Anything else you want out?
Nope. I think we're good, Todd.
All right. We'll see you all next time, and not next time on Ukraine SitRep with Pete, but we'll be right back with the SCIF. Hold on.
celebrate our newest launch, Rev 7, I'm bringing you an amazing introductory offer, plus an exclusive overstock sale that you're not going to want to miss. Rev 7 is our premium energy drink that tastes great and gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. That's because there's no sugar and no caffeine. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7 that for a limited time you can try our 3-pack absolutely free. Or check out our Percale bed sheets. I can't believe I'm even going to say this. Every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes only $29.88, even the queens and kings. Inventory is extremely limited, so order now.
Pandemic, we can never be caught unprepared again. And so many Americans, when COVID hit, they had nothing in the house. Stores were shut down and doctors' offices were shut down. And even if doctors prescribed drugs, hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, pharmacists wouldn't fill the prescriptions. That was a nightmare.
Now the situation is much worse. We have these horrible supply chain problems. In our emergency medical kit at the Wellness Company, we have 8 prescription drugs that are all potentially life-saving.
Most people who died with COVID, they died in the hospital because they didn't receive early treatment.
Every American family should have one of these.
I can tell you the Wellness Company kit is the answer.
When Johnny comes marching home again, hurrah, hurrah, we'll give him a hearty welcome then, hurrah, hurrah. Oh, the men will cheer, the boys will shout, the ladies, they will all turn out and we'll all...
Welcome back to the SCIF. Christmas is coming. Stocking stuffers. Go to armedforces.press, the store, top left corner. Get the merch. Great one to throw in the stocking. We should sell 100 of these today. Check it out. Just a great gifts for someone who has everything AFP merch to use in the gym. Look cool in the gym. Put on gains with style, and that's awesome. We talked about the emergency medical kits earlier. I want to also show an idea for your person who's geopolitically savvy, paying the price, the untold story of the Iranian resistance. You can go to History of Books and get my latest nonfiction there. It's also sold anywhere books are sold. Another great gift idea. And the Alp sleeve magazine of Alp containers, cdmalp.com. Check that out. Wanted to say thanks to the crew for showing up today. Lots of good engagement, even though we had a lot of problems in the beginning of the show. We're fighting this daily. Thank you for your patience. And please check out whatfinger.com after you look at cdm.press 3 times a day. And I just want to run through a few stories. This one, Smotrich in Israel saying that Trump plan is garbage and he doesn't support it. You can read about that on our Israeli site, zionism.com. Armedforces.press. This video of a drone attack inside a hospital is really interesting. The Terminators are here. You can see that on armedforces.press. And Candace Owens dropping big news on her podcast last night. Basically, she's saying that let me just read to you what she's essentially saying. That Tyler Robinson likely didn't shoot Charlie Kirk. He was confused as to why he was being taken into police, that his parents are being threatened by the feds. Tyler's gun was a family heirloom and likely not used in the shooting. The images shown to the public of the shooting are not Tyler Robinson. The apartment raid was staged, and no one close to Charlie Kirk is interested in investigating the murder. So quite fascinating, isn't it, guys? And then this one, VP Vance says that a government shutdown is coming. Hope you enjoyed the SCIF today. Again, apologies for all the drama at the beginning. We'll be back tomorrow with a lot of cool guests. Stay with us. See you tomorrow on the SCIF. Tell your friends. We're on podcast, Rumble, Gettr. By the way, the Rumble channel didn't work today. You can get us always on X, on Gettr Live, and on Rumble Live usually. We also throw the show up on stream or YouTube afterwards. If you haven't signed up for our YouTube or Rumble channels, please do, even if you don't watch them there. CDM on Rumble and CDM1 on Rumble and CDM on YouTube. We need the numbers to grow there because they're dropping them. They're deplatforming us again. It's kind of a stealth deplatform. We lose followers. We were gaining 5 to 10 a day for a year, and all of a sudden we're losing, which doesn't make sense at all. So thank you for your support on social media. X channel is also important. We'll see you tomorrow.